Hey, it's Drybear. Shadow of the Erdtree has brought a bunch of new Ashes of War, different weapons, scaling, and armor buffs and talismans that give us brand new builds that work great. And I've been working on a build that's a little bit different, something that I couldn't really accomplish in the base game, and I'm going to share it with you today, my Venom Burst build. Now, most of the base game Elden Ring builds revolve around things like Frostbite or especially Bleed, which are excellently scaled and powerful builds. In fact, most of the speedruns will end up using like Bloodhound weapons or things like that to scale up Bleed and trigger them. However, one of the weakest status effects in Elden Ring has always been Poison, just because it ticks so slowly that even with Deadly Poison, which does less damage overall, it just hasn't really been a build that's been all that impressive. You can run them, they are pretty good, and the better version of those is usually the Scarlet Rot builds, but even then I feel like they don't get scaled as well as Blood. However, with Shadow of the Erdtree, I put some effort into making a build that does rely on those and can actually make Poison quite powerful. And what's great about Shadow of the Erdtree and Elden Ring in general is the build variety. So if you'd like to see more builds from me on Elden Ring in the future, comment down below, let me know, because there's about 100 million that we could possibly make off of Shadow of the Erdtree and Elden Ring base together. Now this build makes prime use of the Ash of War, the Poison Flower blooms twice. And this is a super cool Ash of War that they added in the DLC that does a couple things. First off, when applied to any melee armament, it will apply the poison affinity to it, which means that your weapon attacks will cause poison bleed up, which means you can make almost any weapon in the game into a poison build-up weapon for this build, which makes it work famously. And also what I like about it too is, unlike most of the arcane infused build options for affinity, it doesn't actually lower your scaling by very much. So you can still actually do some great upfront damage, some poison building, potentially some Scarlet Rot building, and then of course the execute, which we'll talk about in a second. So let's check out the Ash of War to see why it works for this build so well. So all of this is that you will jump up into the air, create this little pincer, and dash forward and attack a target. It will deal a moderate amount of damage, and it will also apply Scarlet Rot bleeds or build-ups. You can see actually the Scarlet Rot coming off of the kick when you do this. However, there's some really cool effects on this. Not only is it an easy way to apply Scarlet Rot build-up, and remember, when you have this on a weapon, it causes your weapon to have poison build-up. So while you're attacking normally with any weapon you have this all equipped to, you're applying poison. And then when you're attacking with the Art of War, you're actually applying Scarlet Rot build-up as well. If you ever hit a target that has either poison or Scarlet Rot or both on them with this ability, it will consume those effects and detonate, doing a boatload of damage. So just for demonstration, I'm gonna go ahead and mark this target with poison using the poison perfume bottle. So now the target is poisoned, and then we'll be able to detonate with the ability so we can see exactly what it does. So now that we have all these buffs up and all this action, so they're gonna land, and then when they come in, we can hit them with the poison kick once they stop being weird. And you can see that that did a whole bunch of damage, and it can scale up a lot more once we have other buffs and debuffs going on them as well. Now you can put the skill on basically any melee armament. I personally like the Fire Knight's short sword because it has fire damage on it. It's super fast for buildup, but a lot of these fast weapons that have crazy high buildup, you can put it on any dagger you want. I've even tried it on some of the Smith script weapons just to see how the buildup was, but you can kind of put it on whatever you want. I just recommend something a little faster to get that extra buildup on it, just because it's a little bit easier to get there. You could even run with the poison. I did experiment a little bit with the poison, the perfume bottle. The only problem is you can't put the skill on the poison perfume bottle, so you'd have to build up poison with the bottle and then switch to something that can actually use the Ash of War. So now let's talk about how you can ramp up this damage to make it even stronger, because there are some unique aspects to this Ash of War that make it work really well. First off, you want to pick up the Mushroom Crown. Now I'm gonna start rolling through the map and the locations for these items to get the build running. So if you're looking for anti-spoilers, this is your warning. Firstly, the Ash of War comes from one of the Ash Scarabs that's going to be down here just underneath the Scarlet Rot area. So in the Red Forest on the top left side of the DLC map, if you come here just in between these two trees inside, you will find the Ash of War you can pick up. It's just sitting there on a scarab. You don't have to do anything else in order to get it. Next, you'll want to get the Mushroom Crown. This is an armor piece that gives you a buff, and what it does is it raises your attack power when something nearby suffers from poison or rot, so that when you trigger poison or rot from either of your effects, you'll gain attack power bonus, and that will apply for the detonation detonation using the poison flower blooms twice. You'll find the mushroom crown in the base game underneath the Lake of Liurnia. Go to the Scarlet Rot Lake, which is underneath. So if you go to this side of the map, you go underneath to the Scarlet Rot Lake, you'll find it here in the bottom right corner, the southeast corner of it. You have to go up, climb up some ruins, and jump down into it in order to pick up the Mushroom Crown. Next, you'll want the Shard of Alexander, one of the best talismans in the base game. This gives you 15% increase to the power of skills, so any of your Ash of War abilities. If you're using an ability, it will increase the damage of that, the attack power of that. This is the better version of the talisman. In order to get this, you have to follow all of the Iron Fist Alexander quest line. So rather than walk you through that, there's tons of guides that cover that. Specifically, to get the better version of the Warrior Jar Shard, you'll have to get the Shard of Alexander by completing his quest line and unlocking that. Next, you'll want the Kindred of Rot's Exaltation. What this does, just like the Mushroom Crown, is it raises attack power when poisoning or rot occurs in the vicinity, and this will stack as well. And you pick this up again in the base game. You have to go to Seethe Water Cave. So if you actually go to the Altus Plateau about mid-game, you'll want to go to Seethe Water Cave, and you'll get it by completing the entirety of that dungeon. However, it's a little weird to get to this spot. You'll probably be coming from the right side here, going over the bridge, and it's a drop that will actually make you perish. So you'll have to come in from the south side. If you see this ravine that comes in through here, this is how you get to Seethe Water Cave. So you can actually go through Altus Plateau, come from the bottom in Windham Ruins, and then go north through this ravine to land in the cave. And you can also take the shortcut of getting grabbed by the Iron Maiden enemies, which will bring you close by to this, and you can run over to Seethe Water Cave, but I would recommend just going through Altus Plateau because you can keep your runes on you. Now, next is a super fun one, the Shattered Stone Talisman. This is a brand new talisman that is available in the DLC, and what's awesome about this is it raises the potency of kicking and stomping skills, which makes sense for the new martial arts dry leaf weapons that we've gotten in the DLC, but I tested it, and the poison flower blooms twice actually counts as a kick. Technically, it is a kick. And so while you're kicking, it raises the attack power and damage of your kick for that detonation when you're detonating a target that's poisoned or rotting. To get this talisman, you'll want to go to the second area in the DLC, cross the bridge, and head over to Morth Ruins. And in the back southern side of Morth Ruins, you will find the talisman inside of a building just under the rooftop here. And for your fourth talisman, you can run whatever you want. There's a lot of them that are basically equivalent in what you want, and you might want to run something defensive there as well. But I think these three are the core: Shard of Alexander, Shattered Stone, and Kindred of Rot, because it will give you a significant boost to the damage you get from the kick. Now, when it comes to weapon, like I said, this Ash of War goes on most or all melee armaments. You can actually pick and choose which ones you want. Now, keep in mind that when you put it onto a weapon like this, you will actually be unable to apply poison grease, poison coating, that sort of thing, because it becomes an arcane imbued or augmented weapon, so you won't be able to use it that way. And because it is a build-up, you technically put it on whatever weapon you want. If you put it on a heavier weapon, per hit, it's going to have higher build-up on it, and for a faster weapon, per hit, it'll have less, but I find that the faster weapons build up the poison a lot quicker. Now, let's do some live testing so I can show what's going on here. I've grabbed some of these higher enemies so we can show what's actually happening. But keep in mind, the biggest thing about the Poison Flower Blooms Twice is that when it strikes a target, it will remove both Scarlet Rot and Poison at the same time. That's how it does its burst damage. So if the target is poisoned or rotted and you hit them, it will do the burst damage and consume those effects. So one of the best tips I have for you, since it's either or and still does its bonus damage, is to focus on applying the poison first and detonating. But keep in mind that when you do the Poison Flower Blooms Twice, it applies only Scarlet Rot. So what you could do is you could build up poison on the target. When it gets to a full amount, then you can detonate it with this Ash of War, build it up again, detonate it, build it up again. And what you want to do is you kind of want to use the application of putting it on the target with your ability so that when you detonate, it applies Scarlet Rot, and then Scarlet Rot stays on the target. So now this target is poison, which means we'll get that bonus there. Then we go for the detonation. And that applies Scarlet Rot buildup, but removes the poison effect from them. It won't remove buildup, it only consumes the poison status and the Scarlet Rot status. So if you have a target that's tanky enough, like a boss, you can actually apply Scarlet Rot to them using the ability by stabbing them with the stinger. Now, another fun weapon to experiment with is going to be the new Deadly Poison perfume bottle that you get in the DLC. And this one is, there's 5 perfume bottles. before, the perfume bottles can have their Ash of War changed, and unfortunately, the poison perfume bottle is the one that you cannot. So there's only one ability, one Ash of War that you can run with this perfume bottle, but it's a very easy way to apply deadly poison to the target by just using the poison perfume bottle as a weapon. Its special ability is Deadly Poison Spray. You will just throw poison up into the air. Unless you have massive resistance and like build-up reduction, you're gonna poison yourself at the same time you poison enemies. But it's an easy way to walk up to a target, especially a boss. You can poison them, and then you can switch to the weapon that has the poison flower and detonate it. Then you can switch over to this, you can poison them. Then you can switch over to the dagger and you can detonate it. And you can just do that on repeat if you have the FP to do so, which is kind of a fun way to play, but it takes a little bit more effort. Now, to get the Deadly Poison perfume bottle, you have to buy it from a merchant, 2 different merchants in the game. The first one that's going to become available from is going to be the Poison Master that you meet along the road. The first place you'll be able to buy it from is the Pillar Path Cross Grace. So just up here on the middle of the map, you actually go here. If you haven't progressed too far into the story, you'll be able to buy the Deadly Poison perfume bottle from him for a very small amount of runes, and that will be the first place. However, if you have progressed in the story, he won't actually be here anymore. He's usually sitting on this little tree stump, little rock right here, and you can buy it from him. Later on in the story, however, to progress in the story and you go to that location, the Path Cross, and you don't see him there, you have another option to pick up the perfume bottle, and that is going to be from the Michaelis Cross Main Gate Cross. So from the very start of the DLC, if you come up here to this side of Grace, the Main Gate Cross, you will meet a man named Moore. Now, if you're part way through the story, you can actually talk to Moore. He will give you an item that he wants you to give to the poison merchant that you'll be able to use as a reason to find him. However, if it's to progress in the story, like I'm at the end of the DLC here, you can actually just buy it directly from him. He will have it on stock in his inventory as well. So multiple locations that you can find that weapon. And that's it. That's the Venom Burst build using the brand new Ash of War. The poison flower blooms twice. This one is super fun to play with. You can mess around with it a whole bunch. And if you have some optimizations that you find in your experience, let me know down below. And if you'd like to see more Elden Ring builds from me, or you'd like to see a different format for these to cover these, I did my best to not try and show too much of the map or too much of the game or fighting enemies that might be spoilery, because it's easier to show this build on bosses, but I didn't want to show any bosses for this. Let me know in the comments down below. If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.